Hello and welcome to the Gold Proving Grounds guide for Blood Death Knights tanking. These are the talents that I recommend for running as a Blood Death Knight, and these are the glyphs. I am currently 663 item level with stat itemizations focusing primarily on Mastery and Multi-Strike. Right. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing the tanking proving grounds, or just tanking in general, is that sometimes you have to rely on reacting to what the enemy mobs are doing. There's no set rules of when you need to blow every specific cooldown. I will give you some recommendations of when to blow cooldowns, but sometimes, for different people and for different scenarios, you won't need a cooldown in a specific scenario, because a lot of it is RNG dependent, depending on how many attacks you parry or dodge, or depending on how hard the mobs hit you, damage can fluctuate. So simply always be prepared for random spikes in damage or unexpected surges of your life just dropping. So keep that in mind as I'm running through these guides. The first wave is fairly straightforward. Just has a Mantid that you got to deal with, and once you, of course, taunt off anytime he resets his threat, and you're pretty much good to go. In the second wave here, you've got to deal with a whole host of these little vermin ads. Now these vermin, of course, apply a stacking debuff to you, as you can see over here, the Chomp. At some point in time, about halfway through the fight, you need to stun them and run over to the corner, as I just did. This, of course, causes that debuff to reset, so it doesn't stack up to ridiculous levels. Now, the second wave will be spawning pretty much the instant that wave finishes, so simply run over and pick them up. Now you'll have to start dealing with monkeys. And monkeys, simply because they AoE, you can't tank them on top of the actual healer / DPS in here. Basically, just taunt them or pick them up really quickly in any way you feel necessary, and begin tanking them. No real special tricks to them, simply run through your generic tanking rotation. Next wave, of course, has a Mantid that you'll need to focus to avoid getting knocked around like a ping pong ball. And of course, you'll have to pick up each incoming monkey every time one of them spawns. Try to keep your focus on the Mantid. That way you're prepared and ready anytime he decides to suddenly wipe your threat out. And he punches you around, but if you're spamming enough abilities on him and your healer / DPS isn't hard targeting him, sometimes you won't actually have to taunt him back. Your damage will be enough to quickly pull him off. Wave 5 will be starting soon, and as what I do normally, simply run over and spread your diseases to the new target. This one has a large flame collar. I'm going to go ahead and just anti-magic shell and pull him into his own fire. There he goes. Rune tap. Blow that. Pick up the new target. Really, sitting them in the fire is practically impossible, so I just try to stick the large flame collar in, because unfortunately these Mantid will just be punting you around everywhere. So it's like the instant you get them positioned, he's just going to knock you over it. So, and the fire goes out. As you see, it's already going out, so I wouldn't worry too much. I positioned the fire caller in there just to get him out of the way a little faster, but, it's not devastatingly important. Now you've got to start dealing with the Mogu. These Mogu, of course, do AoE slams on the ground that stun you. Avoid them at all costs by just sidestepping them briefly. Taunt you back. I prefer to blow Dancing Rune Weapon whenever he, of course, enrages, just to reduce the damage from that slightly. You can, of course, just run through a generic rotation while he's doing it. He doesn't hit so hard that your regular tanking rotation can't heal you through it, but it does make things just a little bit easier. And then you're, of course, stuck with just the long fight while your DPS slowly burns him down. He, generally speaking, won't be all the way dead by the next time the next wave starts, which it forces you to deal with another giant Mogu and Mantid combo. So once, of course, all the monkeys are down, you can position him in the middle or close or wherever. As long as you have him facing away from the healer, you're generally pretty good. And I always, of course, try to keep the Mantid as my primary focus target for whenever they decide to just punch me away. Now, you won't have Dancing Rune Weapon here, so you can blow Vampiric Blood, or just run through your generic rotation, which is probably what I'm going to just do. Because with just this one small illusionary Mantid, you don't have to worry too much about keeping yourself alive. The damage isn't extreme. Now, it'll get a little bit worse here in a moment as you have to deal with a couple monkeys that spawn in Wave 7. But again, nothing too incredibly serious. The damage I'm taking is, you know, not extreme. Here comes another slam, dodge that. And you just keep kind of kiting these buggers around like this. Down he goes. And in Wave 8, now we get to deal with you. Now what I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to just go ahead and blow Anti-Magic Shell, kite him over on top of that, pull him over there, and now he's standing in the fire, blow Dancing Rune Weapon. This will make killing him fairly trivial. Of course, make sure you dodge his slam, pick up the monkey that likes to spawn right here. Unfortunately, it will not be in the fire too much, so you can't unfortunately mess with that too much. And the fire will be going out soon anyways. Here comes another monkey. Taunt the next monkey. And you're good to go. Basically, always the monkeys are the #1 spawn that likes to just pop up right when you're trying to handle something else. So just always keep your eyes out for those monkeys spawning. But, you know, your healer can heal herself. As you can see, she has her own heal going on herself continuously. And she actually can tank a little bit for you. If you absolutely have to, if you're really worried about yourself dying, let your healer tank a little bit. She'll heal herself back up as long as you don't continuously force her to tank something for you. Wave 8 gives you a little bit of a breather. Gonna go ahead and input you there. Gonna go ahead and interrupt that. Pull him over here, try to stick him in the fire. Taunt the monkey, stick the monkey in the fire. And he goes down. And then pull you guys and stick you into fire. Always try to get them in the fire if you possibly can. I'm going to go ahead and blow Dancing Rune Weapon. Not that I feel that I desperately need it. And then you get punted back, and there that goes. Anti-Magic Shell, run through the fire to hopefully reset that. It didn't. But as you can see, you know, he at least took a little bit of extra damage from it. And it burned down the Mantid pretty darn quick. Always try to get them in the fire if you can, but if you can't, it just makes things easier. The fire is not essential to downing these waves. It just makes things easier, so don't be so desperate to get them into the fire that you wind up accidentally, you know, making a mistake somehow. See, just kite these mob buggers around. Keep refreshing that. Blowing that. I know I'm being very descriptive with that. Basically, I'm just, of course, juggling my generic blood taps and plague leech to keep my diseases going. I mean, to keep my death strikes rolling. Plague leech, of course, will clear your diseases off your target, but if you've got multiple targets off, a quick blood boil will simply refresh them, so you don't have to worry too much about upkeeping your diseases. And of course, you get free death strikes every 25 seconds. The final wave. There's a small illusionary flame caller. He dies pretty dang quickly. Interrupt that, blow that. And then you're going to have to deal with a couple big Mogu. And another Mantid. Here they come. I'm going to go ahead and fight you. blow anti-magic shells so that I can pull you into the fire without taking the debuff myself. I'm just going to go Icebound Fortitude and eat that. Makes things easy. Blow Dancing Rune Weapon, sit you in the fire again. Go ahead and Rune Tap. She's going to be tanking a monkey for a little bit. Not a desperate thing. The monkey's going to die long before she will. As you can see, I didn't need to even fight the monkey. Now, don't let her do it too much, but as you can see, you know, it's not a big deal to let her tank one small little ad. Just make sure the Mogu aren't beating on her, or, you know, another one of those big guys. Because you see, she's already healed herself up again. She's already doing good. Oh, I just made a mistake. But I can just go Rune Tap, a couple Blood Boils, pull those right off, drop a Death and Decay, blow my Vampiric Blood and Death Pact combo just to top my HP off. I probably could have just used regular Death Strike to keep my HP up, but this is the last wave. I might as well splurge. And I'll just go ahead and start Remorseless Winter, not that I necessarily need it. Probably could have afforded to use Remorseless Winter a few more times in here than I did. But it wasn't, you know, desperately needed, so I didn't really worry about it too much. And once this last bugger goes down, and that's the end of Gold Proving Grounds for Blood Death Knight tanks. Again, a few tips is just pace out your cooldowns. Don't panic if your HP does drop. Blow just one thing at a time. Because if you panic and you blow everything, then suddenly if something happens in the next wave where you desperately need a cooldown, then you'll be really vulnerable. So pace out your cooldowns. And always blow the lighter cooldowns first, unless you are desperately think you need the bigger cooldown. And a lot of this is, of course, you know, depending on your personal preferences and your own knowledge of how you play. Tanking is not as straightforward a lot of times as simply doing the DPS is, so you have to be able to react to what's happening. Make sure you pay attention to the Mantids, taunt them back when they throw you away, pull the monkeys away from the tank, from your healer, pick up the Mogu, and make sure that you are not standing in their slams. Be very careful with the fire. It is very tempting to want to try to always stick a mob in a fire, but unless you really feel that you have an opening that you can easily position them, it's sometimes safer just to ignore it, because standing in it by yourself can completely wreck you if you're not careful. All in all, I hope this guide helps you, and good luck.